Well, wasn't this story a great big gigantic misunderstanding between mother and son? Baahubali 2, The Conclusion. The best subtitles I have ever heard in the history of movies. The beginning, the conclusion, every franchise needs it, and this movie was released in 2017 and directed by S.S. Rajamouli, who has also directed such films like Maryada Ramana, Baahubali The Beginning, and the best movie of 2022, RRR. I'll say it again, RRR is the best movie of 2022. That might be a little spoiler for my best of video that I release at the end of the years, but I don't care. That movie's fantastic, and I keep going back to it and keep watching it. And it's the reason why I'm watching these two Baahubali films, because this is part of the director's filmography, and I want to be inundated as much as I can in Tollywood, Bollywood, just in India cinema in general, and I love this style. I love the way these stories are told through these big epic adventures, but through beautiful music videos in the middle of these with great little love ballads. And this story, this particular story in this film, it felt very Grecian to me. This felt like Greek theater. This felt like Greek tragedy because there was a bunch of misunderstandings and miscommunications between family members fighting over royalty. I mean, this is Shakespeare. This is Shakespeare done in India. At the end of Baahubali The Beginning, we learn that Katappa, the loyal slave warrior who has vowed to serve the house of the king and queen, betrayed who he considered to be his nephew Baahubali. And 3/4 of this movie is the story about how that event came to be. Baahubali's parents have passed away, and he was adopted by the all-knowing Queen Mother, who also had a son of her own. Both of these boys are brought up the same way with the same values and the same fight training, both competing for the title of King of Mahishamati. And it looks like Baahubali is going to take that crown, so before he ascends, he decides to take an incognito trip around the country to get to know the common folk. And on his journey, he falls in love with Princess Devasena, but also the asshole brother of his falls in love with a picture of her. So knowing that Baahubali loves her, he sets up a plan to pit Baahubali against the royal Queen Mother, eventually ousting Baahubali from the kingdom. I'm going to stop right there with the plot synopsis because I don't want to give away everything, but again, this is very Shakespearean. This is very Greek tragedy where there are a couple of noble people fighting over the rule of a kingdom, and then we have mothers, we have sons, we have heirs who are also fighting over it, and then there's betrayal, there's miscommunication, there's jealousy over love over a beautiful woman, and two people fighting for her. And I'll be honest, I was not expecting this sad, tragic story to be the main story that we're following in this film. I thought we were going to be focusing on the young Baahubali, Baahubali Jr., who is trying to ascend to the kingdom now, and who's going to be fighting for his father and redeeming his father's honor. But sadly, and a little disappointingly, we don't get a lot of Baahubali Jr. His journey and the epic battle that he has against the asshole king is only in the last 40 minutes of this movie. And this is almost a 3-hour movie. I believe it's 2 hours and 45 minutes. Everything else, we're going back to the original Baahubali and who he was. But I just felt like we spent so much time with the new Baahubali, Baahubali Jr. in the beginning, that we don't have anything of him in this film almost. And then when we finally get to that ending and we get to that final battle, I'm a little disconnected because I've spent the last 2 hours and 10 minutes focusing on the original Baahubali and his journey and how that tragically ends and the love that he has for his wife and his newborn child and the love he had for his mother and the tragedy that happens there with the separation. It's heartbreaking, and I kind of just wanted that to be the movie. And then when we get to that final battle scene, I'm like, oh yeah, that's right. Do we have enough time here? It's 40 minutes. Do we have enough time to wrap everything up? Is there a third Baahubali going to be coming out? No, this is the conclusion. It's called The Conclusion. It ends, and it abruptly ends. We have this awesome battle in the last 40 minutes, and it's badass. These guys are being slingshotted by trees over walls, and they're kicking all the soldiers' ass. Baahubali and the asshole king are kicking each other's ass. They're knocking down gold statues. They're trying to Kali Ma each other. And then when the battle ends, literally we have like 2 minutes of resolution and fallout, where one of the characters ascends to the throne and says, yes, I'll make the kingdom great again, end. Screen goes to black, the movie is done. We have no resolution of Baahubali getting to know his mother anymore, or even him marrying Avantika, who, you know, is just like one of the most beautiful people on this planet, and she's barely in this thing. She was featured so much in the beginning, and here in the conclusion, she's on screen for, what, maybe 5 minutes? If that? I mean, I'm being generous with that. I don't even think she had a line in this movie. It was just so disappointing. And I don't want to seem like I'm just bashing this movie, because I actually really enjoyed it. The whole flashback story, I think, is a beautiful story. It's a tragedy. It's a sad story, but it's also very beautiful in the tragedy and all of its sadness. So to see this epic tale go from where it began in the first one, and then this epic flashback tale, for it to have just this short conclusion of 40 minutes and then absolutely no resolution at the end of the climax, I gotta be honest, I'm a little blue-balled here. The movie's not really the conclusion, it's really more about the flashback. This should have been Baahubali 2, the flashback. And then you could have done like an hour movie for Baahubali 3, the conclusion. But then I think it probably would have been more like the Hobbit thing, where they made like the last chapter of the book into a 2.5-hour movie called The Battle of Five Armies. That wasn't very good at all, so maybe don't use that idea. Well, of course you're not using that idea. The movie's already made and, you know, no one's listening to me, but I don't care. That's just my 2 cents. I think there was a missed opportunity here with it being called the conclusion. My disappointment in the conclusion aside, though, again, the cinematography, the visuals of this movie, the fight choreography in that battle scene, and hell, even the choreography and the love ballads and the swan boat that eventually rises up into the sky and Baahubali falling in love with Devasena is a beautiful scene. And again, Parabas is just there with his hands on his hip and the wind blowing in his hair, just looking all heroic as ever. It's gotta be very weird for that actor playing 2 different parts, 2 different Baahubalis, falling in love with the woman who is playing, I guess, the mother character of Baahubali Jr., but he's still playing each one. It's gotta be weird. In the first movie, you are my mother, and I'm falling in love with this warrior princess, but now here in the sequel, I'm playing my father, or who would have been my father, who's falling in love with you, so now you were my mother in the first one, now you are my love interest in this one. That's just gotta be freaking weird. There's some Oedipus Rex shit going on with that. I don't know. Baahubali 2, The Conclusion, is still a great epic film, and it's a great epic tragic story. I just feel like it kind of just peters out at the end, and with this movie being called the conclusion that we get, I feel just didn't fully satisfy me. It is still a great visual epic piece to behold, though. I'm gonna give Baahubali 2, The Conclusion, 3.5 out of 5 Blu-rays.
I am above average.
So guys, if you've seen Baahubali 2, what did you think about it? Which one do you prefer? Do you prefer the beginning or the conclusion? Whatever you thought, comment below, let me know what you thought about it. And as always, if you like what you see here, if you like my take on movies, then hit the subscribe button and make sure you hit that bell. See you the next time I release my next movie review. So guys, I will see you next time on the channel, but in the meantime, be well, be good to each other, and go watch a movie. Take care, guys.